Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer. Welcome to Breeders Cup Focus. The Breeders Cup at Santa Anita is right around the corner. We're going to take a look at the top 10 contenders for the Breeders Cup Juvenile, early contenders right now, with pre-entries being taken next week. Let's take a look at the top 10. They're ranked in odds order, the preliminary morning line made by our colleague David Aragona. And Mike Muth, the $2 million purchase for Bob Baffert, the winner of the American Pharaoh, your 3-1 preliminary favorite over Locked for Todd Pletcher, the game winner of the Breeders' Futurity.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right, Dan? I mean, Muth did stretch out effectively in his most recent start. He's got the home court advantage for Bob Baffert. Here is that grade 1 win in the American Pharaoh. First time around 2 turns. What I liked most about this, Dan, is that he just rated very effectively in this spot. His debut, he looked really fast, winning a short sprint. Here, he had no trouble sitting behind horses.
And that was really the main question coming into the American Pharaoh. How would he relax? How would he take to the extra distance? I'm not sure this was a stellar edition of the American Pharaoh, but Muth certainly looked good winning that race. Now, Locked for Todd Pletcher ran very well sprinting in his debut at Saratoga. Really wowed everyone in his second lifetime start. And here in the Breeders' Futurity, for the first time in his career, he had to fight a little bit. He drew an outside post. He had to make a big wide move into it. And this little street fighter, the wine steward, a New York bred, looks like for a brief second, he's going to fend off Locked. I like the fact that Locked surged again.
Yeah, this is good stuff from Locked, because when you compare the trips that these two horses got, Locked, not only did he win probably easier than the margin suggests, but he won that race, in my opinion, pretty easy anyway, Dan. He was getting away from that horse once again at the end. Wide on both turns, Locked was in his 2-turn debut there. To me, he's run really well in all 3 of his starts so far. He's a major player in this race.
Let's take a look at a little bit of an X factor going into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Prince of Monaco is the fastest on the way in. He is a lifetime buyer best of 103, but we have not seen him since the Del Mar Summer Meet when he defeated Muth in the Del Mar Futurity. Now, the Del Mar Futurity is a sprint. Prince of Monaco has yet to go 2 turns. But I have a feeling that if Baffert wanted to wait for this race, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, off of a few sprints, I think he thinks Prince of Monaco is pretty good.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. This is another horse who's run 3 times already. He's run really well in all of those races. They're all fast races. You know, we'll see about him stretching out, Danny. He's a Speightstown up close in his pedigree on the dam side. There's a lot of sprint in there. But if you go further back, you get some distance influences. So, I mean, we'll see how he handles it. There's no denying that he has an awful lot of talent, though.
Before we look at 6 through 10, I do want to talk quickly about Timberlake, the winner of the Champagne. He was the beaten favorite in the Hopeful. And the more and more I think about the Hopeful, the more and more I just want to draw a line through the total race. It was won by a long shot coming in. Some horses just didn't seem to show up, but Timberlake really bounced back in the Champagne.
I really liked his Champagne. I think this horse is maybe one of the more talented 2-year-olds out there right now, Dan. I guess he's another one where, at least at this stage, you would just question distance for this horse. How far does he want to go? Will he handle 2 turns? Because it's at least worth noting, he was cross-entered into that Breeders' Futurity that Locked won around 2 turns. He didn't run in that race. They stayed at Belmont to run around 1 turn.
Let's take a look at 6 through 10 on our preliminary Breeders' Cup Juvenile list. Again, our preliminary morning line made by our colleague David Aragona. General Partner ran well, but was no match for Timberlake in the Champagne. Fierceness looked good in his career debut, Mike, then caught another wet track in the Champagne. Could you make an excuse for that horse?
I mean, that was a pretty disappointing performance from Fierceness in the Champagne at a very short price. We'll see if he can bounce back out of it. He certainly did look good winning first time out in fast time. It's worth noting, though, Dan, that debut at Saratoga, kind of a speed favoring track there where he got to the front.
We saw Wind Me Up finish second to Muth in the American Pharaoh. BU was behind that one. A Coroneo is from Japan. Maybe a horse like Bentornato down in South Florida could factor. As of right now, and it's very, very early, who's the one you've been impressed with the most?
I like everything that I've seen from Locked
Yeah.
so far, Dan. He would be the one I would lean to at this point. But, you know, it's obviously, it's usually hard to argue with Baffert in these situations. He's got 2 good ones.
And he's got the home court advantage at Santa Anita. He's got Muth. He's got Prince of Monaco. But Locked to us seems like he's a really talented runner in his own right. Should be a nice Breeders' Cup Juvenile.